Good morning, good afternoon, and of course, good evening, everyone. JN and our special guest, Lousin, today for a very important discussion on peace negotiations with yourself. We're going to be talking about practical tips to boost your confidence. I'm Shane. I'm a negotiator, mediator, Ohio Supreme Court, Harvard, Yale, and many other fantastic institutions. I talk about AI and negotiation on LinkedIn. So if those two topics are interesting to you, artificial intelligence and negotiation, I'd love to meet you. Slide over to my profile and shoot me a connection request. I just put out some prompts that you can test out in your negotiations with ChatGPT. And of course, before I pass it over to JN, June is Global Negotiation Month. Those are the red banners next to our names. It's the Negotiathon. So this is part of a 30-day event featuring over 40 speakers. I cannot believe it. It's been such a pleasure and such a great opportunity to connect and meet all of you. And so today our goal is to help you improve your skills, ignite positive change in your life, and also in the lives of others. Today's session will be just about 45 minutes, and you'll also have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of today's show. Now, I'm going to introduce my co-host, the wonderful JN. If you could give him a virtual round of applause as I pass him the microphone with your react button, that would be really appreciated. Nice, very cool. Vladimir, good to see you. Katie, good to see you. Andreas, good to see you. And over to you, Jan.
Hey, Shane, thank you so much. And hi, everybody. Hi, Lousin. I see a lot of people in the crowd that we know. It's really nice to see all of you guys. My name is JN. I'm an associate professor of management at McGill University, where I teach negotiation in our bachelor's degree, our MBA, and our executive education programs. And I'm co-hosting this month-long negotiation event with my friend Shane Ray Martin, with whom I host Deal Talk on LinkedIn every Thursday. If you're interested in joining our events and listen to our future guests, please go on dealtalk.io and you can enter your email and you'll receive our newsletter. So now we would like to introduce to you Lousin Mehrabi. And Lousin Mehrabi is a globally recognized certified professional negotiator with over 23 years of experience in high-stakes business negotiations. She's trained by the world's top negotiators. She currently serves as the global head of negotiation training for ADN Group and advises 4 CEOs on negotiation strategies. She's fluent in 5 languages. She holds 4 nationalities and is a graduate of 3 international business schools. As a mother of a son with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, she's also an advocate for awareness and inclusion. Based in Dubai, Lousin works with corporations worldwide, frequently sharing insights on peace negotiations with yourself. Lousin, hello, how are you?
Hello, Jay, and thank you very much for that warm introduction. How is my audio? Do you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you very, very well. Thank you. And so I'm going to explain maybe to everybody how it's going to work, because I see a couple of people are raising their hands to ask questions. So it's not time for questions now. We'll start with around a 30-minute discussion with Lousin on the topic that we have for today, which is peace negotiation with yourself. And then we'll open the negotiations, the questions. But if you want to ask a question, you need to send it to us by private message, so that we can review it first. So please send it to us, and then if your question is approved, we'll let you ask it. So Lousin, can you please start by telling us a little bit about your journey to becoming a certified professional negotiator?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much, Jay and Shane, for organizing the Negotiathon this month and helping us raise awareness about negotiation. It's absolutely a crucial skill to have for everybody, be it in business and in life. So I'm really grateful that you're organizing this, and thank you for inviting me to this keynote. As you beautifully already said, my name is Lousin. I am a professional negotiator. I help organizations with their complex negotiations. It's mostly business negotiations such as M&A and IPO, but also I have been called in to do suicide negotiations or complex divorce negotiations. And the way I do that is through either advisory, where I'm behind the scenes, nobody knows I'm advising that company to help them prepare the strategy of the negotiation until we have a contract signed, or by sharing some insights in keynotes and trainings. The way I enrolled into this was when I was working in finance. I've been working in investment banking on trading floors and stock exchange for on and off 15 years. And there I was lucky to work for a company who invested a lot in corporate training. And they brought in 2 professional negotiators who trained me, and that sparked the massive interest. Fast forward a few years, I joined them, and now together with my partners at the ADN Group, we provide negotiation training and advisory in any type of complex negotiations. Again, my expertise is in business negotiations because of my background, but within the company, we also do hostage negotiations, suicide negotiations, any type of high stakes negotiations where a non-agreement is simply not an option.
Okay, so that's extremely interesting. I have a question, maybe that's a little bit different, but I'm extremely interested. One of the main topics of discussion in the negotiation world over the past 30 years has been gender. It's been women in negotiation, and there's a lot to say, and there's a lot of research. You have a quarter of a century of experience as a negotiator. From your perspective, not just from an academic perspective, but from your perspective as a woman and a negotiator, how has it changed?
The landscape, you mean?
The last 25 years in the negotiation world. Have you seen changes?
Well, I hope that me and my colleagues, male and female, are raising the bar and breaking the biases of what a negotiator is and how a negotiator looks like. Because if we have to believe the Hollywood movies, the typical negotiator, if I tell you, think about a professional negotiator, what comes to mind? For most people, and because of Hollywood movies, it is a man, 40 plus, white, maybe bald, like the Mel Gibbons type.
Yeah.
And that is the person that comes to mind. And we are doing our best, obviously, to break that bias and say, no, we have professional negotiators. It has nothing to do with gender, age, race, skin color, and all those things. It has everything to do with expertise and experience. And I would say not even education or degrees. It's really the experience and the expertise as a negotiator to be able to close deals ethically and successfully. And also the data shows that there is absolutely no difference in success rates between male and female, but there are many differences in self-confidence. So that is one of the subjects that we'll be talking about today. Self-confidence there is a difference between male and female, and the high stakes negotiations. We see still today that the higher the stakes, the less women we see on the negotiation table. There are right now still 2023, many peace negotiations happening. So diplomatic negotiations happening with 0 female negotiators who signed the agreement. So there's a lot to be done, be it in politics, be it in business negotiations, to raise awareness of saying, when we know, and the data and research shows that there's absolutely no difference between how successful somebody negotiates, then why do we still have all these biases? And which biases do we personally have? And how can we get rid of them so that we invite more women on the negotiation table? Because beautiful data also shows that when we do have women on a negotiation table, the chances of the agreement being actually implemented and respected increases. So we increase the chances of whatever the agreement is, that it actually gets implemented and respected.
It really is a very, very good point that you're making. And it's true that there is a lot of research kind of like going in all sorts, studying all sorts of different facets of the gender paradigm in negotiation. But at the end of the day, people are individuals. Even if there's like a slight average difference for the 2 groups, it doesn't really mean much, and you probably have the same experience in the classroom where you're looking at women and men and you're thinking like, I don't really want to box them into their gender because, it's very black and white, whereas in real life, it's a little bit more gray.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote an article about this and I really researched this. I went into the research, I went into all the data, and I say, do women negotiate better? Do men negotiate better? Do we have a clear answer on that? In which situation? What are the skills? And I wrote an article about it. I'll share it on LinkedIn soon. So you will have all the links and all the research.
Very good. Shane, I think you have a question.
Yes, 100%. And speaking of LinkedIn too, one thing that a lot of people don't know that is going on this month in June is there is a raffle. And at the end of today's show, one lucky person who follows Lousin and follows us on LinkedIn will get access to a 60-minute consultation one-on-one with Lousin. So shoot a message over to Lousin and connect with the three of us on LinkedIn. That way you can get entered into the raffle. There's also 19 other prizes being given out this month in June. And Lousin, there's so many different directions we could take this right now. This is so interesting and exciting. And so much of this, as you know, is situational dependent. And everyone listening right now has a different lens, has their own life experiences, is dealing with different types of personalities. Can you tell us about tell us about a high stakes negotiation that crossed your desk recently, and how did you summon the confidence and the courage to do it effectively?
Well, I'm obviously facing high stakes negotiations on a regular basis, but would you like me to share the one that helped me realize the importance of peace negotiations with yourself? Shall we go straight into that one?
Yes,
I think
please.
that would be powerful.
All right. So when I was working for investment banks or stock exchange, I was mainly doing complex negotiations, but they were commercial negotiations, right? High stakes, millions of euros at stake. Important, not life-threatening, but important. And that's when I got trained and became a certified professional negotiator. And I thought, okay, now I know I have my certificate. I will be able to negotiate anything with anybody, right? And that's when life gave me the most humbling experience of my life, the most painful experience of my life. When I got certified and I thought I knew it all and I would be able to negotiate anything with anybody, unfortunately, we found out that my son, who was only 6 years old at the age, got diagnosed with a severe disease, a disease for which there is no cure. It's progressive, it's fatal. Nobody has ever survived this condition. Now, when that happens, what are you going to negotiate then? Who are you going to negotiate with? I couldn't negotiate with the doctors. I tried to negotiate with God that I didn't agree with this, but that didn't work. So how do you face life then? And I'm going to share something that I've almost never shared with anybody. There are not many people who know this because it's just something that people don't usually talk about. But for the 118 that are listening now, I'm going to share this, and it's very vulnerable, so please bear with me. When we found out that my son has a fatal disease, I told my husband, let's move to Dubai. Let's just go there and give him a great life. What he didn't know was that in my head, I was planning to go to Dubai, make sure my son was going to get the very, very, very best of everything, the best school, the best house, the best anything that we could afford in that moment. But from the moment we got the diagnosis, there was a part of me that got immediately into refusal of accepting this. Like, I'm not accepting this. This is not happening. I can't handle this. I don't have the strength to watch my son deteriorate and then die. Like, I just can't. That's not going to happen. So what I was thinking when I told my husband, let's go to Dubai, is I'm going to build a beautiful life for you guys, but I can't do this. I'm not going to live this life. I just can't. And we did as we planned. We moved to Dubai. It was extremely hot here in the summer. I was trying to buy everything I could. I was being very mindful of the money because Dubai is expensive, and I was totally confused of, okay, how are we going to live here? So I bought everything secondhand, filled the house. It was a beautiful house. I put Alex, my son, in the best school I could find. And then I thought, okay, I've done my mission as a mother. He's going to have a wonderful life, but I cannot watch this happen. I just can't. So I'll make sure everything is okay for him and the family, and I'm leaving. I'm going to end my life. And I remember once I was lying on the bed in the heat and the AC wasn't working, and I Googled how to commit suicide and make it look like an accident. Because I wanted my family to believe it was an accident. I didn't even have the courage of letting them know that I couldn't deal with this. But then, while I was contemplating all this, I still remember I was in my bathroom getting ready for the day, and my husband walks in, and I told him, honey, you know what I Googled? And he said, what? And I thought by telling him, I'm going to get some empathy and some compassion for the pain I'm going through. And I told him, babe, I just Googled how to commit suicide and make it look like an accident. And you won't believe his face, the way he looked at me. It was rage. It was so much anger, and I didn't expect that at all. So I asked him, hey, you look angry. And he said, yeah, what do you mean commit suicide? I would never forgive you. And I had never expected that. I said, what? What do you mean not forgive me? You don't actually think I'm going to live with this, right? Like, I can't. And he said, but what about me? What about Elise, our daughter? And he said, I'll never forgive you. And that anger in his face changed everything, because here I was thinking, okay, this is the biggest adversity of my life. I can't handle it, so I'm not going to handle it. I'm just going to leave. And there he was saying, I'll never forgive you. So I felt like pushed against the wall, which we often have on a negotiation table, thinking I have to accept something that I don't want. Like, I don't want this life. I don't want to be a mom of a child who's dying. And that's when everything changed, because I thought a lot about his expression and what he said. And I realized that I had a choice here. I could either leave or I could deal with this. And I decided, if I'm going to deal with this, then I will do it my way. Then I'm going to renegotiate with myself all the terms of who I am as a woman, who I am as a mother, how I show up in life. And we're going to reshuffle the whole negotiation table, and everything is going to change. And in that moment, I made the choice to live, but I made the choice to renegotiate all the terms of my life.
Mm. You're so courageous, Lousin. That's one of the most powerful things that's ever been shared on this show. And just thank you. Because you just don't know who else is wrestling with similar things. It's impossible to know. And this is a story of courage and perseverance. And I think a lot of people are wondering now, like, where are things at today?
Yeah. Well, things are good right now. So this was in September 17. We're almost 6 years further. I have learned a hell of a lot in those 6 years. And I can honestly tell you that I'm happy. I am happy. I am grateful for the life that I have. I am happy for the life we're giving Alex. I honestly think he is happy. And I'm very, very, very grateful that my husband didn't show compassion in that moment, and that he said, I'll never forgive you, because that was exactly what I needed to hear, not to commit suicide. And I have worked with people who are suicidal. I have worked with people who want to commit suicide. I have negotiated with them. And I can tell you this, the majority of people who are contemplating suicide, they don't want to die. They want the suffering to end. And when we look at it that way, that allows us to see the pain behind the reasoning of why people do this. They don't want to die. They want the suffering to end. And when we can give them hope that there are different ways of ending that suffering, then that sparks this interest of saying, oh, wait a second, maybe there is another way out. Maybe there are other solutions. And that is how I tie it all back to negotiations with yourself, because in the end, it is negotiations with ourselves when we are facing hardship, when we are facing difficulties. And it's all the skills that we need as a negotiator that come into play when we negotiate with ourselves. To give a few examples. So when we're facing hardship and we don't know how to deal with it, or when we're pushed against the wall, or when we have a very aggressive negotiation partner, and we feel like, okay, I can't handle this, like this is too hard, this is too difficult, Then the skill that is constantly needed when we are facing a no or difficulty is resilience, right? This capacity to keep going, this capacity to keep hope, like, okay, this capacity of standing back up after defeat. Resilience is such a superpower that we need as negotiators, and it's a superpower that serves us in everything in life, in every difficulty in life, be it on a negotiation table or somewhere else. So resilience is something that we can build by standing back up after defeat, by not taking no for an answer, by allowing ourselves to mess up, be it a negotiation or something else, and stand back up and try again. Resilience is such a superpower. Another superpower, and these two often go hand in hand, is agility. Being able to adapt. Because that was the power that I needed in this life situation. And this reminds me of a beautiful quote. It's one of my favorite quotes from Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust. And in his amazing book, Man's Search for Meaning, which I recommend to read for anybody, he says, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that is when peace negotiations with yourself comes in. Because when you are really, you're back against the wall and there's nothing you can do about a certain situation, be it on a negotiation table or in your life, what you always can do is change the way you look at it and change yourself. Now, if you want to change yourself, you have to know yourself. And that is when all the inner work comes in. And that is when all the inner dialogue comes in. Because the way you talk to yourself is a direct compass towards the quality of your life. It determines what kind of life you're going to have, that inner dialogue. When we start to realize that during the day, constantly we're talking to ourselves, constantly. Like it is said that we have up to 60,000 thoughts a day. And most of that is a conversation with yourself. So when you become aware of that, then you can shift that conversation into a way that is more empowering to yourself. And it all starts by deciding that you want to have a better relationship with yourself. Because it doesn't matter on which negotiation table you go. Every negotiation in your life is going to be different. The only thing that's going to be the same over and over again is the person that you're taking to the negotiation table, which is you. So by understanding yourself better, you become a better negotiator because you know what are going to be your triggers, you know what are going to be your downfalls, you know what are your trauma that you're bringing with yourself. So I think we owe it to ourselves to understand ourselves, to understand the relationship we have with ourselves so that we can then improve it. And I have created a 7-step method to help me remind of how to do that. And I'll be happy to share that here if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So it's a 7-step method that you can remember by the name Scale Up. So how do we scale up? So this is when we decide, okay, I want to build a better relationship with myself and I want to reach my goals. For any goal that you have in your life, you can use Scale Up. And Scale Up stands for the following. The first letter of S stands for start, meaning you have to decide that you're going to do whatever it is that you want to do. Like right now, take a minute and think about, I want to have a better relationship with myself. Okay, that can be the goal because the talk is called Peace Negotiations with Yourself. We can say, okay, I'm going to decide right now that I am going to have peace negotiations with myself. Okay? Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, whatever, I don't need peace negotiations with myself, fine. Think about another goal. Any goal that you have. Any goal that you have. Okay? Just take 1 second and think about a goal. So the first step is to start. And start by making the decision that you're actually going to do this. That this is not wishful thinking. That is not, oh, I wish I had. No, you're actually going to do it. You're actually going to go for it. That is the S of start. Then the C and Scale Up. The C stands for comprehend. We need you to understand what the situation is. We first need to analyze, okay, what is the situation right now? Why don't I have that goal that I'm aiming for yet? What is the current market situation? What are the players? What do I need to get there? Etc., etc. We want you to analyze the situation and understand comprehend what am I dealing with. Okay? Now, once you understand that better, and when you're dealing with trauma, for example, this is a great step to go and take help, meaning psychotherapy or any other type of therapy, to not only heal, but also help you understand the situation, like what is really happening. You can't resolve any negotiation if you don't understand what's really happening. And remind me to give you another tool afterwards to lead a great negotiation with yourself. So this is comprehend. Then step 3 is the A for acceptance. This is a tough one. Wherever we are, whatever goal it is that we have, before we can change anything, we need to accept where we are right now. We need to accept the current situation of how we are, who we are, and why we haven't achieved that goal yet. I think one of the biggest causes of suffering is non-acceptance. It's wanting something else than what we have. But acceptance is a superpower that allows you to stay calm, analyze the situation very rationally and objectively, and say, this is where I am today, and this is where I'm headed. But right now, I'm here. And first, I'm going to accept that before wanting anything else. Now, don't get me wrong. Acceptance has nothing to do with giving up or giving in. Acceptance is simply acceptance of what is. You look at the situation as it is currently. Okay? So step 4, we have done start, comprehend, accept, and then step 4 is when you start accepting where you are right now and who you are right now, there's going to be a lot of resistance because you don't want to be there, right? It's uncomfortable. You want to be somewhere else. That's why you have that goal. And here I come and make it even more difficult and say, once you've accepted the way you are right now, I need you to take it a step further and love yourself the way you are right now, including all the flaws, including all the mess ups, including all the uncertainties, the anxiety, the depression. It doesn't matter where you are right now. Once you accept it, I want you to love yourself, love your circumstances the way it is. And if you can't love yourself, because you'd be surprised how many people cannot love themselves, then at least love the version of you that is trying to love yourself. Make sense? There's a part of you that deserves love.
So sorry, continue. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay, great. So, and this is a difficult one because if you want to love yourself, there is a part of acceptance, but there's also a part of forgiveness. We need to forgive ourselves for all the things that we're blaming ourselves for. And that list can be very long for a lot of people. But that blame is in your backpack of life that you're carrying with you every day, everywhere you go. And it's coming with you on every negotiation table. And it's holding you back because the energy of blame is very heavy. And you're carrying that with you. So love is the moment where you decide to forgive yourself. Get rid of all the self-blame, all the limiting beliefs, all the horrible stuff you say and think about yourself. This is the moment of saying, I am the way I am right now. I'm moving towards a better version of myself, but right now I am the way I am, and I'm going to love that part of me. Now, once you've done that, everything becomes so much easier because now you have empathy for yourself. Now you have compassion for yourself. These are the same skills that we need to be a good negotiator. You cannot bond with anybody and get anything done from anybody if you don't have empathy. So this is a moment to practice empathy for yourself. Once you improve the relationship you have with yourself by understanding yourself better, by accepting yourself the way you are, by even loving yourself, that's when we can go to the next step. And that next step is super exciting because it's the E for envision. Now that you have accepted yourself the way you are, now let's envision who you want to be. What type of negotiator do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be? What type of parent do you want to be? Whatever it is that is linked to your goal, envision what success looks like to you. If anything was possible, how would you become? How would you be? And then envision it in as much detail as you can. Like, how do you talk? How do you walk? Who are you connected with? What is it that you do? How does a day look like? And really become that version of you in your visualization. We've had a lot of research, and we know the science shows that visualization absolutely helps. This is not a woo-woo thingy. This is something that absolutely works, used by professional athletes, used by professional negotiators, used by absolutely anybody who is in high performance. Before you can reach a goal, you need to envision the way it is to reach that goal. So now we have the skill part: start, comprehend, accept, love, and envision. And once you have envisioned it, you're going to get loads of ideas of how to actually do it, how to actually reach that goal. And then it's time for action. So the up part of scale up, the U stands for up, of actually get up and do it. Write the things down that need to be done, make an action plan, and actually actively do it. Get up and do it. So this is no more envisioning, this is no more thinking, this is no more loving, accepting, whatever. That is already done. And now we're standing up and actually doing something about it, because you won't reach anything without action. And once we've done the action, and then it's like this zigzag of scale up where you go, okay, I need to accept this part, because it's only by doing that you will see what you're lacking. It's only by doing that you will understand, oh, I don't have that information yet. We go back to comprehend. Oh, wait a second, there's still a part of me that resists this part. So we need to go back to acceptance, to love, to envision, etc. So we go into cycles until we reach our goals. And then it's still not complete, because when you have become the version of yourself that you wanted to be, when you have more peace with yourself, when you have reached the goal that you want, I've added the last P of scale up for pass it on or pay it forward. Because there's nothing more rewarding than serving somebody else who's going through that same difficulty as you went through and helping them achieve their goals too. That is how it becomes a beautiful circle of you helping somebody else achieve what you achieved. By sharing your story, by becoming a light bulb for somebody else. You know, that can be, some people do that in a book, but that can be a simple post, that can be a simple coffee with somebody where you're there with somebody. It can be mentorship, it can be whatever you want, but please pass on your knowledge, because we're all connected and we can all learn from each other. So that is the scale up method that I use to, that is what I have used to have a better relationship with myself, to be able to deal with this difficulty with my son, and to be able to deal with any type of negotiation that I'm dealing with, or any type of goal that I have in my life. I just go through these 7 steps and say, where am I right now? What is lacking? And how can I put everything in order to have like this train that smoothly goes on its rails?
That's absolutely amazing. Shane, do you want to summarize the 7 steps?
Well, I not only have them memorized, I think I'm going to get them tattooed after this show.
Go for it.
This is powerful. S, start. C, comprehend. A, accept. L, love. E, was it envision or empathy?
Envision, yes.
Envision. And the U, can you say what that was, Lucy?
Up. Get up and do it.
It's amazing.
Incredible.
This is really great. I have a question for you about the part that is about accepting. And, you know, you talked about accepting, which kind of like is the opposite of avoiding, or opposite of denying, you know, or resisting, right? And I think, you know, a lot of times when people are going through really, really big changes, if you're not accepting, you know, it's not really helping you out. But the problem is, for a lot of us, it's really hard to do. How do you navigate that? Like, how do you navigate, what are you supposed to feel at this moment?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's an amazing feeling of calmness, of peace, really, because the question should be, how can you not accept what is? Because what is what is. Your resistance is creating the suffering. Now, my son has a fatal disease. That is a fact. Me not wanting that is creating the suffering. Me wanting to have a healthy child is creating the suffering. Yeah. The fact that he has a disease is a suffering at best for him. You see what I mean? I'm looking at it from a mother's perspective, and of course it hurts because I want something else. But if I can come to a point where I accept that my child has a disease, and there is absolutely nothing I can do to heal him, because I'm not a doctor, because there is no cure, because I can't, then anything else than acceptance is completely illusional. And that is what our brains does to us, and that is what creates all the suffering, and that is what drives us nuts. It's the non-acceptance. So if non-acceptance is suffering, then acceptance becomes peace.
So a lot of times, when we're dealing with children, we kind of use overarching concepts like fairness. We say you can't get this because this wouldn't be fair to your siblings, for example, or you're not allowed to get this because it's not following the rules. But what's happening to your son is incredibly unfair. And so the question is, how do you navigate, giving a child an education and still having to tell them you're dealing with something that's unfair?
Well, it is unfair. And we don't have to pretend that it's not unfair. Fairness and unfairness and everything that goes with it is an emotion. You feel an emotion. You feel sadness. You feel anger. And that's okay. And emotions are there to help us and to help us navigate through life. And that's all okay. So acceptance doesn't mean we're not allowed to be sad. Acceptance means we accept the situation as it is. Right now, he has this disease. That is a fact. So us denying it is not going to heal him either. By accepting it, we can say, okay, now that you have the disease, what can we do? What can we do? How can we help you the best way? How can we still have a great life? How can we still continue to laugh and enjoy life and create memories? That's when, you go from love to envision and say, okay, how do we envision life with this condition? It's after acceptance. And then you ask yourself much more powerful questions than by staying into, oh my God, this is so unfair. And of course, there is a time for self-pity, and that's also normal, and that's also okay. It's just not okay to stay there. I remember right after diagnosis, I went to see a friend of mine, and we were in his kitchen and talking, and I was telling him it's so unfair, and he's only 6 years old, and why me? Why my child? This is so unfair, and I had planned so many things with him, etc., etc. And I went into my self-pity talk, and he gave me some tough love that was a bit harsh to hear, but it was so true. He said, Luz, who told you that life is supposed to be fair? And I was like, that's harsh. There I was, go whining about my pain and my self-pity, and I wanted some compassion. And he says, who said life's supposed to be fair? And it's true. We all face adversity in life. We have faced adversity, and we will face adversity. The adversity is not the problem. Us thinking that we shouldn't is the problem. Us thinking that we shouldn't have suffering, that's the problem. Because suffering comes and goes. It's just a fact of life. So when you put that unfairness away of saying, who said life's supposed to be fair anyway, and everybody's going to have their dose of unfairness anyway, then you can say, okay, the problem is not the unfairness, the problem is not the suffering, the problem is me thinking it shouldn't happen to me, and now that it is happening to me, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to let it ruin my life? Am I going to let it ruin my quality of life? Am I going to let it ruin my happiness? Or am I going to accept it as it is, love myself and my son through it, and then envision what the best quality of life could be despite this adversity?
That's very powerful. Shane, you have a question?
Yes, Lucy, you're one of the most inspirational people I know, and this has been such a great conversation. I mean that so sincerely. And before we open it up for questions, I want to do a quick room refresh, because I know that folks have joined in the last few minutes. So far, Lousin has shared her incredible story of courage and the adversity that she has faced head on with her family and her son, who's been diagnosed with a really difficult illness. And a couple things that she said that really stood out so far is one of the biggest causes of suffering is not accepting reality. And then another powerful thing she shared is the adversity you're facing is not the problem. I thought that was really powerful. And before we open it up for questions, I wanted to ask you, Lousin, the World Cup was last year, and you had a wonderful experience, it seems like, with your son, and you wrote really fantastically about the experience. Could you share that? And then we'll take some questions from the audience. And also, as a reminder, for today, we're going to be raffling off an hour consultation with Lousin for one lucky person. All you need to do is follow the three of us, especially Lousin, and we'll enter you into that. I've already got some messages from folks of people who want to be entered. So just send us a connection request. We'll enter you in the raffle. And Lousin, we'd love to hear about the experience at the World Cup.
Absolutely. I will share the experience with you. And after that, I also want to share something with you that I haven't shared with anybody yet. So this is another special thing only for the listeners of this event, and something really exciting that is happening that I've been working on since September. So I'm going to share all about it. The World Cup experience was one of the best experiences, I think, in his life, because Alex is now 12 years old. He just turned 12, and he is an absolute big fan of football. He's always loved football. When he could still walk, we would play football together. Now that he's in a wheelchair, we can't play football running anymore, but we still play football in the water. And what happened was that we decided to go to the World Cup because it's in Qatar. We live in Dubai. It's not that far, but it was a whole lot of organization because we needed to go with the van and have all kind of special need permits, etc. But my husband organized everything for months and months, and I'm very grateful that we could go. And what was truly incredible, and that is the power of LinkedIn. That's why I'm so grateful to be connected to all of you here, because LinkedIn is such a powerful social media tool. I wrote one day about the most difficult conversation that I had in my life, and that was when I had to tell my son that his condition doesn't have a cure and that it's going to get worse and worse. His psychologist had told me it's time to tell him, and it was the most difficult conversation. Like, how do you tell your child that basically there's no cure? And I shared that story on LinkedIn, and I shared that he was a fan of football and that he was never going to play football again. And there was a man who sent me a message saying, "Hi, my name is Dan. I work for the FIFA. And if you send me your address, I will send you some goodies from the FIFA Cup." I said, "Okay, wonderful." So I give him my address, and he sends us a beautiful box, with some key hangers and a ball and that kind of stuff. And I tell him, "Listen, I would love to thank you. And we're actually coming to Qatar for the World Cup. It would be great to meet you over coffee and, so that I can just thank you." So he said, "Sure, let me know when you're coming and we'll meet up." So while we're driving to Doha, I send him a WhatsApp saying we're on our way. We're going to go to that and that match. And he says, "Okay, I'll meet you there." All right. So we go to the stadium, and there a colleague of his is waiting for us and says, "Okay, come quickly. Alex can come with me together with one parent, and I have a surprise for you." So we have absolutely no idea what's happening. Yeah. So my husband tells me, "Okay, you go, and I'll take care of our daughter." And we jump in this little bus, and she drives us into the tunnels, where the players come out from. And before we know it, we're standing right in the tunnel where the players are going to pass like 2 meters in front of us. And she says, "Okay, you can't take pictures. You can't say anything. You have to be, very quiet and just be here. But at least you can watch it from here." So a few minutes later, the players pass. I'll never forget. It was France, Denmark. So the players pass in front of us. And Alex, my son, was wearing Kylian Mbappe's jersey. And Mbappe sees it, and he actually comes to us, gives him a big hug and a high five. And I take a beautiful picture of that moment. And here we have a beautiful picture with Kylian Mbappe. I'm super grateful that he came. And then it didn't end there. We were actually allowed to go on the field when they were singing the national anthem. We were on the field. We saw the beautiful fireworks and the opening of the match. It was absolutely insane. It was beautiful. France won that match. It was unforgettable. And as if that wasn't enough, this beautiful team of the FIFA World Cup also organized for us when we were on there for other matches that we could go again on the field. And when the Dutch and the Qatari team were playing the Netherlands-Qatar, he was actually allowed to be on the field with his wheelchair right in front of the players, and he got on TV and all those things. It was absolutely phenomenal. I'm super, super grateful. And just to tell you how beautiful it is when life has this beautiful circle, is while we invited the FIFA team for lunch to help to thank them for everything. And I said, how on earth can I help you guys? And can I thank you guys? And they said, well, you know what? We would love to stay in the region, but when the World Cup's finished, we're not going to have a job anymore. So, since you're a bit influential on LinkedIn, if there's anything you can do. So what I did is I shared the story and I shared their names. And I said, these people are amazing people. If anybody's hiring in the Middle East, reach out to them. And thank God, a great company here in the UAE reached out to them and they found a job through that post. And they moved to Dubai recently, and I'm so grateful for this. But yeah, this is the power of LinkedIn. This is absolutely amazing.
So cool, so inspiring. And if you have a moment, go to Lousin's profile and check out the photos of Alex being on the field. Wasn't he able to walk hand in hand with the players before the match, the Qatar match?
Well, he wasn't one of the mascots because he can't walk. But what I didn't know is that besides the children who walk with the football players, there's actually a spot for people in a wheelchair. And I hadn't even noticed that before, but there's also one person in a wheelchair, and Alex was the one in a wheelchair in front of them. So that was amazing.
So cool. Oh my gosh. So powerful. Definitely check out the photos. They were amazing. And you said that you had something that you wanted to share just for this audience.
Yes, I've never shared this before. So this is a real premiere. You're the very, very first to hear about this. This is absolutely amazing. But also through the power of LinkedIn, okay, so how am I going to share this? I haven't even shared this yet. I didn't prepare to share it yet. It's really premiere. You're the very first to learn about this. If you are interested in personal development, you must have heard of the book Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course.
I think the audience as well. It's a classical, obviously was written in the 30s, absolute bestseller in the world of entrepreneurship and personal development. Now, a few years ago, they made a movie from the book Think and Grow Rich. And that was, again, a huge success. And now the makers of Think and Grow Rich have made a new movie about inspirational mothers, where we're going to hear unheard stories of inspirational mothers sharing their stories of how they faced adversity. And it's absolutely inspiring and phenomenal and beautiful stories. There's going to be a story of one of the moms who in the Second World War, for example, saved a lot of children from the Holocaust by hiding them in her car and elsewhere. Absolutely amazing story, and many more stories like that. And I've been honored to be asked to share Alex's story in the movie. And that movie is coming out soon, most probably in August. And so, yeah, just follow me on LinkedIn and I will share more and more about it. And as part of the movie, we have also filmed a whole training called Peace Negotiations with Yourself. So there will be a whole online training available for those who want to dig deeper and go into this subject in more detail. There's an online training coming up and the movie coming up. It's all coming up and I'll be sharing more as soon as I can.
Oh my gosh, so good. And for context, Think and Grow Rich has sold over 100 million copies. The show is really interesting. And I know that your show is going to be just as powerful. And what an incredible journey and story of adversity, you turning adversity into something that's inspiring. And that is what negotiators do. This is so exciting. And I encourage everyone to check out Lousin's profile. Go follow her, as she mentioned, so you can follow the highlights of the story as it's unraveling right before us. What an incredible announcements, and Jane and I didn't even know that was going to happen either. So we're with you in the audience as you're listening. This is such a special moment, and we're so looking forward to supporting you. And beyond just following you on LinkedIn, as we wrap up today, what else can the audience do to support you, and where should we go after this? What should we do?
Well, I will be sharing more on LinkedIn. So if you want to know more, that's the only place. I'm not active on any other social media. LinkedIn is really my favorite platform. And what you can do, and that is not something that I'm asking for me or for Alex, I'm really asking this for you, for yourself, for your family, and for humanity really, is please take a moment to really have those peace negotiations with yourself. Start to build a better relationship with yourself, because the moment you improve the relationship you have with yourself, the moment that inner dialogue improves, I guarantee you every relationship you have in your life will improve. You will become a better parent. You will become a better child, sister, brother, whatever you are. You will become a better employee. You will definitely become a better negotiator, because the things we need to have peace with ourselves, things like resilience, agility, empathy, listening skills, compassion, all those skills are exactly the same skills that we use on a negotiation table to come to agreements. So when you have peace with yourself, you become more calm, you have more self-control, you're able to connect with people more because you also see the suffering in them when you connect with the suffering in yourself. You heal your traumas, you have less triggers, you can be the bigger person in every conflict, and make sure that we resolve conflict, because that is the ultimate goal of a negotiation. We negotiate to go from a disagreement to an agreement. And the better you are capable of having agreements with yourself, the better you'll be capable of reaching meaningful deals with others.
It's so true. It starts with the conversation that's happening in your own heart and in your own mind. And with that, we'll wrap up today's show. Veronica, Tracy, Gabe, it's so wonderful to see all of you. And thank you so much for everyone tuning into this really special edition of the Negotiathon. But very special thank you to Lousin for coming on and sharing what's next for her and what she's been through and how we can all get involved. And part of that too is the raffle. Again, final thing, send Lousin a connection request, send Jane and I a message if you'd like to be entered, and we'll get you into the raffle to meet Lousin one-on-one when you're both available to chat. That is the end of today's show. I'm not even entirely sure I wrapped up so many of these shows. I don't know how to wrap up something this powerful and more meaningful other than to say that this is so much more than a negotiation. This is so much more than a conversation. This is about living in a powerful way for humanity and for others, and also for yourself. And I just encourage everyone to do exactly what Lousin said today, is to take a moment and to negotiate peacefully with yourself. We wish everyone a blessed week. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for our next Negotiathon event. If you want details for that, send us a message. We'd love to hear from you over DMs. And thank you for the wonderful notes already coming in about the conversation today. We'll see you all very soon.
Thank you so much, Shane, and thank you, Lousin.